we will be looking at two models of the skin, and I'll show you these structures in histology when we're done. So this is our first skin model, and it has three sections. This section is scalp, this section is the axillary region, and this is the foot or pedis region. Now the reason why the models have three regions is the skin's not the same. Let's start with the scalp. In the scalp, we're going to have the typical skin. We have hair follicles, we have sweat glands, we have oil glands, and we have the rector pili muscle. When we move over to the armpit, we actually get a second type of sweat gland. And then the foot doesn't have hair. I don't think we have hairy feet. Hobbits might, but we don't. And we actually have a thickening of the skin, and this extra layer right there, called the strand lucidum. So we're going to start with the scalp, then move to the armpit, then move to the foot. So this is the scalp over here. And the first thing we're going to notice are the hair follicles. Down here, is the bulb. So this would be the bulb here. And even though this is across our demarcation line right there, that is the bulb of the hair that's in the armpit. Now, we then will have a root. This right here is the root. I honestly selected a different color. And then what sticks out is the shaft. Now, what we see over here is it's enclosed in a sheath that actually is an invagination of the epidermis. So there's the invagination, so that's the root sheath around it. But the root sheath, I am pretty sure, is not on your study guide, so we're not going to worry about that. Now, right here is an erector pili muscle. So that muscle right there is an erector pili. I'm not sure. Ah, there it is. And the job of the erector pili is it contracts, and it makes the hair follicle stand up on end, and it gives us goosebumps over most of our body, or it can make your hair stand on end when you're scared. So, that is the erector pili muscle. Now, it is spelled with an A, not an E. Now, we also have this skin gland right here, called eccrine sweat gland. One of the books we use incorrectly calls it a merocrine sweat gland. Both the eccrine and apocrine actually are merocrine sweat glands, so you can't do that. But this is an eccrine sweat gland. The duct of it goes directly to the surface there. So that's an eccrine sweat gland. So the structures here would be the hair bulb, the root, the shaft, the erector pili muscle, the eccrine sweat gland, and then we have this gland on the hair follicle. It's over here too. That's a sebaceous gland. It makes sebum, which is a fancy way to say oil. Now, this region over here, we could see the crease right there and the crease right there, is the armpit, or the axillary region. And this is the inside of an eccrine sweat gland. So same curled up structure, but that's just the inside of the eccrine sweat gland. And we see the duct is going to the surface. Again, we have a sebaceous gland right here, and the duct is emptying on the hair follicle. We could see we have our erector pili muscle. Now, this is an apocrine gland. The apocrine sweat glands are in your groin and in your axillary region. They have a larger lumen, and they make an oily type of sweat. So it has oils in it, it has lipids, it has proteins in it, and they're thought to act as pheromones. Now, there's one problem with this model. I'm not going to tell you how much it costs. I think it's $300. But this duct is not in the right place. The duct of this gland actually should be, thank you, going to the hair follicle. So if you look at your lab book, you'll see the duct going to the hair follicle. So now let's look at the layers of this. All of this right here, this subcutaneous fat, is the hypodermis. And it always scares me when I do the cadaver dissection because I'm like, oh my goodness, there's all that subcutaneous fat. I need to go on a diet. And my diet lasts a total of 1 week, and then I start eating like a pig again. So this is the hypodermis. Now where all the fun stuff is, our eccrine sweat gland, our erector pili, our sebaceous gland, our hairs. Those are all in the dermis. So this area here is the dermis. Now this colorful area is the epidermis, and I'm going to zoom in. So the epidermis is this top layer. It goes from here all the way down to here. And we have some dermal papillae here, but not very many. Now, the epidermis has 4 regions in the scalp and the armpit, and just about everywhere else, because most of your skin is considered thin skin. This is the stratum basale, the next layer, and notice it's only 1 cell layer thick. The next layer is all this in here. That is the stratum spinosum. Our next layer, a nice hot pink color, is our stratum granulosum. And usually that's only 1 or 2 layers thick. And then lastly, but not least, is our stratum corneum. This is where we have our shingle-like skin. Now this was the hair, or the scalp. And you can see the epidermis actually goes and forms the inner sheath of the hair follicle. If I scroll over, this is now our scalp, our armpit. And again, we have the stratum basale. I am shocked that that black on black worked. We have our stratum spinosum. We have our stratum granulosum. And lastly, we have our stratum corneum. So this too is thin skin. And here's our very bad duct going to the wrong place. And you can see we have the epithelial tissue even continuing into the ducts of the gland. Now, our thick skin, over here, we actually have another layer. This is our thick skin. And again, we have our stratum basale. We have our stratum spinosum. We have our stratum granulosum. Then we have this layer. It's clear on the histology slides. Apparently it's clear here. I'm not sure you can see the blue. That is the stratum lucidum. And we actually have a thicker stratum corneum as well. So this is thick skin. Now, on the thick skin, we can also see nice and clear dermal papilla right there. And if we scroll over even more, these would be the dermal papilla. So these are the dermal papilla. Those are the dermal papilla. Now, inside the dermal papilla, we have this thing. It looks like a sperm in this model, but that is a Meissner's corpuscle. I personally think they look like little Vienna sausages, or actually they look like giant mitochondria, or they look like the grubs that were in the soil I was digging up the other day. That grossed you out, didn't it? So these Meissner corpuscles detect a light touch. You have them in other places. Your feet and your palms are just super sensitive regions of your body. So here would be a Meissner's corpuscle. How about it's a bacteria with a tail? Okay, so other structures for our thick skin. Again, we have our eccrine gland. Small, tightly coiled tubes with the duct going all the way up to the skin. So see, the duct goes all the way up. Now in the face-to-face class, we actually measure the distribution of sweat glands, and students find out the palms of all the places we look are have the most sweat glands on them. So there's one more gland I want to talk about. There's one more structure I want to talk about. It's this thing. This is a Pascean corpus. It's coiled. It looks like an onion. And it's usually found deep into the hypodermis. And it's detecting a crude touch, where these Meissner's corpuscles are detecting a light touch. So that is our green model. I will talk about the other model in our second video.